The galaxy was a dangerous place full of systems ruled by power, fear, and violence. Lyra, the deadliest killer in existence, had survived it all. She had never trusted anyone, never depended on anyone, and never allowed emotions to interfere with her missions. Yet here she was, sitting in the cockpit of the Night Viper, a human named Elias beside her. For Lyra, this was a complication she could not ignore. She had no choice but to allow him to accompany her. Leaving him behind was not an option, not after what he had done, but keeping a human alive came with risk. Humans were fragile, often reckless, and slow compared to her instincts. Still, Elias had proven himself clever and brave. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to rely even a little on someone else. "Where are we going?" Elias asked, peering at the star chart spread across the holographic display. "To a place off known routes, safe enough for repairs and planning," Lyra replied. Her voice was calm, neutral, but it carried authority. Elias nodded, his eyes scanning every control panel with curiosity. He had been trained as an engineer, but nothing in his life had prepared him for this. The company of a galactic assassin, the chaos of alien attacks, or the sharpness of a life constantly on the edge. Yet he did not falter. He adapted, learned quickly, and even began to notice things Lyra herself did not. As the Night Viper cut through the emptiness of space, Lyra observed him silently. She had never cared about anyone before. Her life had always been solitary, precise, and free from distraction. Elias, however, was beginning to change that. "You know," Elias said suddenly, breaking her thoughts, "you could be more than just a killer. If you wanted, you could help people instead of killing them." Lyra's eyes narrowed. No one spoke to her this way. Most people either feared her or obeyed her. Elias spoke with something different, honesty and courage. "I survive because I'm careful," she said quietly. "Helping people is not the same as surviving." "Maybe," Elias said, "but surviving alone doesn't make you strong. Helping others, that does." He did not say it arrogantly. His words were calm, certain. Lyra found herself thinking about it longer than she should have. They arrived at the station, a small abandoned place hidden in an asteroid belt. Its walls were scratched and scarred from age, but it offered shelter, tools, and supplies. Lyra guided the Night Viper into a docking bay, its engines cooling with a soft hum. "Stay close," she said to Elias. "And don't touch anything important without asking." Elias smiled faintly. "Understood. But I might have ideas that could help." Lyra allowed him with caution. Watching him work, she realized that humans were not as weak as most creatures believed. He analyzed the ship's damage, suggested efficient repairs, and even found flaws in the docking bay's structure that could cause danger later. Lyra had never thought about asking for help, yet now she found his input valuable. That evening, as they ate simple rations, the tension between them shifted. They had survived together, fought together, and now existed in a rare moment of quiet. Elias spoke of Earth, his home, and the simple human ideas of community, friendship, and courage. Lyra listened, not out of interest in nostalgia, but because his perspective was different from anything she had known. "You humans, you risk so much even when it doesn't benefit you," Lyra remarked. Elias shrugged. "We believe in more than just survival. We believe in hope, in helping each other." Lyra turned her gaze to the dark expanse outside the station's window. She had never needed hope. She had never needed anyone. Yet somehow she felt it stir inside her. The calm did not last long. Just as the Night Viper was ready for departure, alarms rang. Lyra's sensors detected a ship approaching, fast, armed, and precise. She recognized the signature immediately. Rhynoc, a rival assassin she had thought long dead. Rhynoc had always been a shadow in her past, a constant threat to her reputation. "Stay inside," Lyra commanded, moving to the controls. "This is not a fight for the faint-hearted." Elias did not flinch. Instead, he quickly assessed the station's defenses, suggesting angles and weak points to evade the incoming ship. Lyra allowed it, astonished at his quick thinking under pressure. Together, they plotted a route that would give the Night Viper the best chance to escape. Rhynoc's ship entered the station, sleek and deadly. Laser blasts tore through empty corridors, sparks flying, echoing through the metal walls. Lyra moved like liquid, precise and deadly, avoiding attacks and countering when necessary. Elias assisted, guiding her through the station's old layout, pointing out routes and shields that even Lyra had not considered. It was during this battle that Lyra realized the truth. Humans were unpredictable, but their ingenuity could match, even surpass trained killers in certain ways. Elias's creativity, his quick thinking, and his courage made him invaluable. And more than that, she felt protective. They fought their way to the Night Viper, but Rhinox's ship blocked the exit. Lyra assessed the situation quickly. She could escape alone, leaving Elias behind, or she could risk confrontation. She chose the latter. Rhinox boarded the Night Viper in a sudden, aggressive strike. Lyra met him with unmatched skill, but Rhinox was clever, adapting to her moves. Elias, though untrained in combat, assisted by manipulating the ship's systems, activating traps, diverting power, and creating openings. The two worked together, human and assassin, in perfect synchronization. Finally, Lyra disarmed Rhinox, forcing him to retreat. She did not kill him, not yet. The human beside her had shown her that victory did not always require death. It required intelligence, strategy, and trust. Breathing heavily, Lyra glanced at Elias. "You should have stayed hidden." "I could have," he replied calmly. "But I didn't, and we won." Lyra said nothing. She could not deny the truth in his words. Humans were fragile, yes, but capable in ways she had never fully appreciated. This human, this Elias, was teaching her something dangerous, that she could care for someone without losing her strength. The next days were spent repairing the Night Viper, resupplying and planning their next moves. Lyra was cautious, but she allowed Elias to assist more and more. He repaired minor systems, helped her gather intelligence, and even suggested strategies to avoid detection by enemies. Lyra noticed something unsettling. She began to rely on him not just as an assistant but as a companion. "You're changing," Elias said one evening, watching her check the ship's systems for the third time that day. "You're not just surviving. You're thinking about the future." Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly. "Thinking about survival is not weakness." "No," Elias replied. "But caring for someone is." For the first time, Lyra considered it. She had spent her life avoiding attachment, avoiding weakness, but now she was forced to think differently. Elias's courage, intelligence, and humanity were becoming a force she could not ignore. He was her ally, her challenge, and her weakness. The night ended quietly, but the galaxy was not quiet. New dangers were always approaching, and Lyra knew their next mission would test both of them. She would have to trust Elias even more, face enemies together, and confront threats that required more than skill. They required courage, creativity, and human ingenuity. As the Night Viper prepared to leave the station, Lyra piloted it into open space, her focus sharp. Elias beside her, confident and alert, was no longer just a human she had saved. He was a partner in survival, a symbol of human resilience, and a reminder that even the deadliest killer could find value in someone else. Lyra thought about the galaxy, about the dangers they would face, and about the unlikely alliance she had formed. For the first time, she did not feel alone. And for the first time, she wondered if survival could mean more than just living. It could mean protecting, trusting, and even caring. The stars stretched ahead of them, bright and infinite. Somewhere out there, the galaxy waited with threats, challenges, and opportunities. Lyra and Elias were ready. They would face whatever came next together. The galaxy had never seen a human and an assassin fight side by side, and soon, it would learn that courage and ingenuity could change the course of history. Lyra, the deadliest killer, had found a weakness, but in that weakness she had discovered strength, and the journey had only just begun. The galaxy had a way of testing those who dared to step into its darkness. For Lyra, the deadliest killer in existence, danger was familiar. But now with Elias at her side, every decision carried more than just her life. It carried his. And for the first time, she felt the weight of responsibility in a new way. After leaving the hidden station, Lyra and Elias traveled to a distant system where information about a hidden tyrannical empire awaited. This empire had been quietly manipulating galactic politics for decades, and Lyra had unknowingly been a tool in their hands. Every contract she had completed, every leader she had eliminated had advanced their control. Elias discovered this while analyzing intercepted transmissions and hidden data from the diplomats' networks. His excitement was tempered by seriousness. Lyra, they used you. You weren't just a killer. You were part of their plan to control the galaxy. Lyra remained silent. She had always known she was used in one way or another, but hearing it spelled out made the betrayal sharp and personal. She felt the familiar itch of anger and the temptation for vengeance, but Elias's calm reasoning prevented her from acting recklessly. Then we stopped them, Elias said, his eyes bright with determination. We don't just survive, we fight back. Together. Lyra glanced at him, noting the contrast between his fragile human frame and his unshakable will. She had faced countless enemies stronger, faster, and deadlier than him. Yet he had survived every test with ingenuity, courage, and unwavering determination. That was human strength, the kind no weapon or power could match. They began their journey through the outer rim of the galaxy, evading detection by Imperial agents and rival assassins. Lyra taught Elias the ways of stealth, combat, and quick thinking under pressure. At first he stumbled, but his adaptability impressed her. Unlike other humans, Elias learned quickly and used his understanding of technology to gain advantages that even Lyra had not considered. You have a gift, Lyra admitted one evening, as they rested aboard the Night Viper. You see things differently. That makes you dangerous. In a good way, Elias smiled faintly. I think humans have to be creative to survive. We don't have claws or strength like you. We have our minds and our courage. Lyra's thoughts lingered on his words longer than she wanted. Courage was not weakness, she realized. It was something she had underestimated. And more than that, she recognized that her own abilities had been sharpened because of him. Not just physically, but mentally. Their mission grew more dangerous as they uncovered evidence of the Empire's plan. A network of assassins, spies, and corrupt leaders who controlled trade, information, and war across multiple star systems. The evidence pointed to one shocking truth. Lyra herself had been used to eliminate leaders who opposed the Empire. This is bigger than us, Lyra said quietly. They have agents everywhere. If we try to fight, we could die. Or we could win, Elias countered. If we think carefully, plan carefully, and trust each other, we can turn the tide. Lyra studied him, noting the confidence in his words. Humans were fragile, yes, but their resilience could change outcomes. Elias had survived impossible odds already. He had inspired her to fight in ways she had never imagined. Their journey led them to a planet on the edge of Imperial space. Its surface was harsh and rocky, with thin air and jagged cliffs. But it was a hub of resistance movements. Rebels, outcasts, and former soldiers who had opposed the Empire had gathered there. Lyra and Elias were cautious, but the rebels welcomed them cautiously, recognizing Lyra's reputation. You work with humans now? One of the rebels asked, surprise evident in his tone. Yes, Lyra replied simply. He survives. That is reason enough. The rebels helped them gather intelligence on the Empire's networks. Lyra observed Elias interacting with them, noting how his courage and honesty earned trust quickly. Humans could connect, inspire, and unite in ways she had never considered. She realized that in trusting him, she had also begun to trust others, a dangerous and unfamiliar feeling. As they prepared for their first mission, together, an infiltration into a supply hub, controlled by the Empire, Lyra felt the weight of compassion. In the past, her missions had involved no attachments. No civilians mattered, only the target and the kill. But now, with Elias beside her, she understood that every decision could protect lives or endanger them. The mission began under the cover of darkness. Lyra and Elias moved with precision, bypassing security drones, disabling alarms, and using the environment to their advantage. Elias's knowledge of engineering allowed them to manipulate systems quickly, opening doors and creating safe paths. Lyra noticed his mind worked like a weapon, calculating and predicting outcomes faster than many of her trained enemies. They reached the supply hub's core, uncovering evidence of the Empire's manipulation and control over multiple systems. Lyra felt a mix of anger and determination. This information could topple empires or get them killed trying. Suddenly, alarms blared. Imperial guards, faster and stronger than expected, rushed toward them. Lyra prepared to fight alone, but Elias acted first. Using tools and quick improvisation, he created traps that slowed the guards and gave Lyra openings to strike with lethal precision. Together they moved as one, human ingenuity and lethal skill in perfect harmony. Lyra realized something important in that moment. Elias's humanity, His courage, his willingness to fight despite fragility, had become her strength. More than that, he had become her weakness, because she cared for his safety more than she cared for her own. That feeling was foreign and dangerous, yet she could not deny it. After escaping, they retreated to a hidden asteroid base. Kalara treated her own wounds, and Elias helped where he could. She studied him, noting how unafraid he was, how he faced dangers that would terrify most humans, and she felt a new kind of respect, one that mixed admiration with something deeper. "You've changed me," Kalara said quietly, her voice softer than usual. "I am not the same as before." Elias looked at her, eyes calm but understanding. "Humans change the people around them sometimes. You're learning that strength isn't just about killing or surviving. It's about protecting, planning, and fighting for something bigger than yourself." Kalara stared into the stars, silent. She had lived decades as a killer, as a shadow that haunted the galaxy. But Elias's words struck a chord she could not ignore. Perhaps the galaxy could be fought with courage and hope, not just death and fear. Their quiet was interrupted by new information from the rebels. The Empire had sent elite hunters, assassins, spies, and soldiers after them. Kalara and Elias were now targets of the very organization she had unknowingly served. Survival alone would not be enough. They would need strategy, intelligence, and alliances to survive the coming storm. Kalara planned their next steps with precision. She assigned tasks, mapped escape routes, and prepared for combat, while Elias contributed solutions and ideas, each one clever and effective. She realized that his presence did not weaken her. It made her more effective, more resourceful, and more aware of possibilities she had never considered. As the asteroid base settled into night, Kalara looked at Elias again. "You are dangerous," she said, almost reluctantly. "Not because you fight like me, but because you make me care. And caring makes me vulnerable." Elias smiled faintly. "Maybe that's not weakness. Maybe that's what makes us stronger." Kalara said nothing, but she thought about it all night. Humans were fragile, yes, but they were clever, brave, and capable of inspiring change. Elias had proven that one human could alter the life of the deadliest killer in the galaxy. And in doing so, he had shown her a path she had never known, a life where strength included compassion, loyalty, and courage. The galaxy was vast, and the Empire was powerful. They would face dangers that tested every skill and every nerve. But Kalara and Elias had learned something important. Together, they were more than survivor and target. They were a force combining human ingenuity with lethal skill, courage with strategy, and the galaxy had never seen anything like it. Kalara, the deadliest killer, had begun to understand the weight of compassion. And Elias, the human who had saved her life, had become more than an ally. He had become her reason to fight, her source of strength, and her greatest challenge. The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of danger, opportunity, and the unknown. Kalara and Elias were ready to face it side by side, knowing that the galaxy could not break their courage, nor the bond that was forming between them. For the first time in her life, Kalara understood something new. Strength was not measured by how many lives you could end, but by how many you could protect, and how you could inspire even the weakest to rise above fear and survive. And with Elias beside her, she knew they could survive anything the galaxy sent their way. The galaxy was a storm, and Kalara and Elias were in its eye. They had survived alien attacks, rival assassins, and the manipulations of a hidden empire. But survival alone was no longer enough. The Empire's reach was vast, and their enemies were relentless. Kalara knew that if they wanted to change the galaxy, they could not fight alone. They needed allies, and courage beyond the ordinary. Elias moved beside her, scanning the systems for intelligence, analyzing every piece of data. "If we coordinate with the rebels and strike their supply lines, we could weaken their control without exposing ourselves too soon," he said. His ideas were clever, tactical, and precise, proof that human ingenuity could rival even the deadliest instincts of trained killers. Kalara nodded. She had learned to value his perspective, even if it challenged her own methods. She had spent her life trusting only herself, but Elias's presence had taught her that collaboration, planning, and shared courage could be a weapon as lethal as any blade. They traveled to a remote system, a hub for outcasts and rebels who had once been soldiers, merchants and engineers oppressed by the Empire. It was not an easy journey. Imperial patrols scanned every corridor of space, and Kalara's reputation made them a target. But Elias's strategies and quick thinking allowed them to move unseen, avoiding patrols and false sensors. The rebel base welcomed them cautiously. Kalara's name was feared, but Elias's humanity reassured them. "He trusts you," one of the leaders said, "and if he trusts you, we can too." Kalara did not speak. She was not used to trust, but she allowed it. In working with humans, she realized that their strength came not only from courage, but from unity. They could inspire, organize, and fight in ways no solitary killer could achieve. Their first operation together targeted an Imperial supply hub on a nearby moon. It was heavily guarded, but Kalara's skill and Elias's intelligence allowed them to plan a route that minimized risk and maximized impact. The rebels, trained and coordinated, were ready to act under their guidance. Kalara felt the familiar rush of precision as she led the strike. Every movement was deliberate, every strike calculated. But this time she was not alone. Elias moved beside her, controlling systems, creating diversions, and finding weak points that even she had not considered. Their synergy was astonishing. The supply hub fell quickly, not through brute force alone, but through strategy, intelligence, and human ingenuity. Supplies, weapons, and critical data were seized. The Empire would feel the ripple of this loss, and Kalara saw a glimpse of hope for the first time in her life. Later, as they retreated to their hidden base, Kalara reflected on what she had learned. Humans were fragile yet resilient. Their minds were tools of invention, creativity, and courage. And Elias, the human who had saved her life, had become the strongest ally she had ever known. She realized that her strength was amplified by his presence, but so was her vulnerability. She could not afford to lose him, and that awareness weighed on her. The days that followed were filled with preparation, strategy, and planning. The Empire was not passive. They responded quickly, sending assassins, spies, and soldiers after them. Kalara and Elias trained the rebels, teaching them to think, adapt, and act in ways that utilized human ingenuity and creativity. For Kalara, it was strange and new to be a teacher rather than a lone hunter. She discovered that leadership and protection could be as powerful as killing. One evening, as the asteroid base's artificial sun cast pale light across the chamber, Elias spoke quietly. "They underestimate us because they think humans are weak. They don't see what we can do when we work together." Kalara observed him, noting the determination in his eyes. "You are right. Their weakness is their arrogance. They assume strength is only in weapons and power, but they forget courage, intelligence, and unity." Their next mission was the most dangerous yet: to strike at the heart of the Empire's operations, a heavily fortified command station that controlled communications and supply across several systems. The plan required precision, timing, and courage. Any mistake could mean death for all of them. Kalara led the team through stealth corridors and bypassed automated defenses with precision, while Elias guided the rebels, using human creativity to create diversions and trap systems that slowed the Empire's response. Every move tested their coordination and courage, yet they advanced steadily. At the station's core, Kalara faced a rival she had not expected: Terran, one of the Empire's deadliest enforcers. Skilled, ruthless, and cunning, Terran was a reflection of what Kalara had once been, a shadow trained to kill without hesitation. But Kalara was no longer alone. Elias's strategies created openings that allowed her to confront Terran without losing ground. The battle was fierce. Kalara's blades clashed against Terran's, sparks flying, movements fast and precise. Elias manipulated the station's systems, controlling doors, alarms, and defenses to give Kalara the advantage. Their teamwork was unmatched. Humans were fragile, yes, but ingenuity and courage proved mightier than pure strength alone. In the end, Terran fell not just to Kalara's skill, but to the combination of her precision and Elias's human ingenuity. Kalara felt a mix of satisfaction and awe. Her life had changed because of him. He was no longer just a companion. He was her partner, her strength, and her vulnerability. The victory was a turning point. The Empire's control over the region weakened, their soldiers demoralized, and rebel morale soared. Kalara saw it clearly now. The galaxy could be changed not just by power, but by courage, creativity, and trust. Humans, despite their fragility, could inspire others and overcome great odds. That night, Lyra reflected on the changes within herself. She had always been solitary, precise, and ruthless, but Elias had shown her something new. Strength born of compassion, courage, and connection. For the first time, she understood that protecting someone, caring for them and trusting them did not weaken her, it made her stronger. "Lyra," Elias said softly, breaking her thoughts. "You've changed. You're not just surviving anymore. You're leading. You're inspiring. You're human in ways I never thought you could be." Lyra looked at him, her eyes unreadable. Perhaps I'm simply learning that strength is not only in killing, it is in protecting, planning, and fighting for what matters. Elias smiled, a mixture of pride and reassurance. "Exactly. And we can win. Not because we are perfect, but because we are human and we are brave." Lyra did not answer, but deep inside she knew he was right. They had begun turning the tide, and the Empire would soon realize that no weapon, no assassin, no amount of fear could match the courage and ingenuity of humans united with determination. The Night Viper prepared for the next phase of their campaign. Lyra's mind was sharp, her instincts honed, and her focus unyielding. But now she carried more than skill. She carried purpose, loyalty, and the awareness that Elias had changed everything. He was no longer just the human she had saved. He was her equal in strategy, courage, and determination. The stars stretched endlessly before them, each system a challenge, each planet a potential battleground. But Lyra and Elias had learned something crucial. Survival alone was no longer the goal. They would fight, inspire, and lead, turning fear and oppression into hope and courage. The galaxy was beginning to shift. The Empire had underestimated them, underestimating human ingenuity, courage, and determination. Lyra, the deadliest killer, had learned that strength was not measured by how many lives she could take, but by how many lives she could protect, and how she could inspire even the most fragile humans to rise above fear. Elias, the human who had changed her life, remained by her side, a reminder that courage could be found in the unlikeliest places, and together, they were no longer hunters and hunted. They were leaders, allies, and a force the galaxy had never seen before. Lyra felt it, deep in her core. The Empire's reign was not absolute. Fear could be challenged, courage could be found, and with humans beside her she was unstoppable. For the first time she did not fear the future. She was ready. The galaxy had yet to see the full power of a killer who learned to protect, and a human who refused to back down. Together they would turn the tide, and the stars themselves would witness the rise of a new force. The galaxy was quiet, but the calm was deceptive. Lyra and Elias had turned the tide against the Empire, weakening its control, inspiring rebels, and outsmarting assassins. But the final challenge awaited, the heart of the Empire itself. The leader, a ruthless figure who had manipulated galactic politics for decades, had been the true architect behind Lyra's deadly missions. Lyra and Elias studied the maps of the Empire's capital station. It was a massive fortress floating in the void, surrounded by layers of shields, defense drones, and elite soldiers. Every approach was dangerous, but retreat was not an option. They had come too far, and the galaxy depended on their success. Elias stood beside her, analyzing the defenses. "We can't attack head-on. Too many enemies, too much firepower. But if we use stealth strategy and our allies, we can get inside and disable their systems. Then the leaders will be vulnerable." Lyra nodded. She trusted his judgment. Humans were fragile, yes, but their ingenuity, courage, and creativity made them unpredictable and unstoppable. Elias had survived impossible odds before, and his ideas had repeatedly saved them. Together they were a force unlike anything the Empire had encountered. The plan was simple but risky. They would infiltrate the fortress through a hidden maintenance route, disable the central communication network, and create a distraction that would allow the rebels to strike the Leadership Council. Timing was critical. One mistake could mean death for all involved. As the Night Viper approached the fortress, alarms blared, triggered by sensors they had not anticipated. Imperial drones swarmed, lasers cutting through space like deadly threads. Lyra piloted the ship with precision, weaving between fire and debris while Elias calculated trajectories, providing real-time solutions to avoid destruction. Inside the fortress, they moved like shadows. Lyra led the way, silent and lethal, disabling guards with precise strikes. Elias followed, manipulating security systems, opening doors, and creating diversions. They worked as one, a deadly killer and a clever human, each amplifying the other's strengths. They reached the central control chamber, but the leader was waiting. A figure cloaked in authority, calm yet commanding, emerged. "Lyra," the leader said, voice cold. "You have been a perfect instrument, but now your usefulness ends." Lyra's grip on her blade tightened. "I am no one's tool anymore," she said firmly. Elias stood beside her, steady and confident. The leader's eyes flicked to Elias. "And this human, you risked your life for him, how?" "Weak." Lyra's eyes narrowed. Elias's presence had been her weakness, yes, but now it was her strength. Protecting him had given her purpose, courage, and clarity. She no longer fought only for herself. She fought for him, for the rebels, and for the galaxy. The leader attacked first, summoning elite soldiers and advanced drones. Lyra moved with unmatched precision, her blades slicing through enemies while Elias disabled security systems, redirected power, and created traps. Their teamwork was seamless. Where Lyra's skill alone might have sufficed, Elias's ingenuity turned the battle decisively in their favor. They fought their way to the communication core. Elias quickly analyzed the system. "I can shut it down, but it will trigger alarms throughout the fortress. We need to act fast." Lyra nodded. "Do it." With Elias's guidance, the systems went offline, creating confusion and chaos. Imperial soldiers were disoriented, and the leader's control faltered. The rebels launched their strike, taking advantage of the disruption to infiltrate key areas. Lyra and Elias fought side by side, protecting each other and ensuring no innocent life was harmed in the process. Finally, Lyra faced the leader directly. Their battle was intense, a clash of skill, strategy, and willpower. Lyra could have killed the leader instantly, ending the threat, but she hesitated. Elias's lessons echoed in her mind. Humanity's strength lay not in destruction alone, but in courage, strategy, and mercy. Instead of killing, Lyra used her skill and Elias's guidance to trap the leader, disabling weapons and escape routes. The leader was defeated, captured without unnecessary bloodshed. For Lyra, this choice was revolutionary. She realized that strength could be measured not by how many lives she ended, but by how many she protected and how she used intelligence and courage to overcome foes. With the leader captured, the Empire's control collapsed. Soldiers surrendered, communication networks failed, and the galaxy awoke to a new reality. Humans, courage, and ingenuity had toppled an empire. Lyra and Elias had proven that fragility could coexist with strength, that bravery could overcome fear, and that even the deadliest killer could find power in compassion. The rebels celebrated, but Lyra and Elias did not pause. They ensured civilians were safe, prisoners were freed, and the remnants of the Empire could not regroup. Every move was calculated, precise, and careful, reflecting both Lyra's lethal skill and Elias's human intelligence. As the dust settled, Lyra finally spoke, her voice calm but filled with emotion. "We have done what no one thought possible. The galaxy is free." Elias looked at her, a faint smile on his face. "No, humans did this. You showed the way, but humans are the ones who inspired, who acted, who fought for life instead of fear." Lyra studied him, realizing the truth in his words. He had been more than a companion. He had been her teacher in courage, compassion, and ingenuity. He had changed her life, challenged her instincts, and made her realize that survival was only meaningful when paired with purpose. The night viper floated above the liberated planet. Stars sparkled in the endless void, silent witnesses to their victory. Lyra and Elias stood side by side, looking at the galaxy they had saved. "You are different now," Elias said softly. "You fight for more than yourself. You care, you inspire, you lead." Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of her transformation. She had been the deadliest killer in the galaxy, feared by all, but she had learned that true strength lay in courage, intelligence, and the willingness to protect rather than destroy. And through it all, a human, a fragile, brilliant, courageous human, had shown her the way. "Perhaps," Lyra said quietly, "this is what it means to be strong." Elias smiled. "I think so. And now the galaxy knows what humans can do." Lyra looked at him, feeling a new kind of respect and connection. For the first time, she did not fear attachment. She understood that the bond she had with Elias was not weakness. It was a source of power, strategy, and hope. Together they had faced impossible odds, fought the Empire, and won. The galaxy would remember their names, not as a killer and a human, but as a symbol of courage, ingenuity, and hope. Lyra, once feared above all, now inspired. Elias, the human who had saved her, proved that humanity's greatest strength lay in courage, creativity, and the will to protect. As the stars stretched infinitely before them, Lyra and Elias prepared for the next chapter of their journey. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and mysteries, but they were ready. Humans had shown their power, courage had triumphed, and the deadliest killer had learned that strength was not in fear, but in hope, unity, and trust. Together, they would face the galaxy's future, not as hunter and saved, but as equals, partners. And Legends Lyra, the deadliest killer, had found her humanity. Elias, the human who had saved her, had proven that even the weakest can be the strongest, and the galaxy would never forget it. The twin suns of Verelia Prime hung low in the sky, painting the city in streaks of gold and orange. The streets were crowded but tense. Alien merchants hawked their goods while officials in sharp uniforms patrolled the alleys. Rumors moved faster than people here. Whispers of danger, fear, and death filled the air. At the city's edge, a figure moved silently, almost like a shadow. Cloaked in a dark robe, the stranger's presence caused a few passers-by to step back instinctively. There was something in the figure's movement, smooth, precise, and calm, that made even the guards pause for a moment before continuing. This was no ordinary traveler. This was an assassin, known across multiple systems as the deadliest of their kind. Stories of their missions traveled far. Impossible kills, targets eliminated without leaving a trace. Most beings feared them. Most cities would have locked their gates at the mere mention of the assassin's name. The assassin paused at the city gates, scanning the walls and the crowded streets beyond. They needed shelter. They had been on the run for weeks, avoiding the Alien Council's agents, bounty hunters, and spies. Every city they had entered had turned them away. No one dared help. No one dared give them a place to rest. The rumors were true, the whispers warned. The assassin was dangerous, unstoppable, and unwelcome. Yet as they stepped toward the gates of the human settlement, a small but fortified area at the edge of the city, they noticed something different. Humans lived here. They built their homes not as prisons or fortresses, but as welcoming shelters, connected by clean streets, gardens, and quiet squares. Their energy was different from the alien cities, less rigid, more open, more alive. The assassin hesitated. They had learned long ago that humans were brave, sometimes recklessly so. But even then, most species would not dare offer refuge. Most species cared more about rules, fear, and power than compassion. A human stepped forward, blocking the path, but not aggressively. She was tall, with sharp eyes that seemed to look through the assassin's cloak. She carried no weapon, yet her presence was commanding. Her uniform was simple, but her posture suggested leadership. This was Captain Lyra, the leader of the settlement. She studied the assassin for a long moment, then spoke in calm, steady tones. "Come in." The assassin froze. The words were simple, but they carried weight. No one had ever said this before, not with such confidence, not with such fearless kindness. The assassin scanned her face, searching for a trap. The humans were small in number. The city's alien officials would not take this lightly. Yet there was no hint of deception in her expression. Her eyes were steady, almost warm. Slowly, the assassin stepped forward. The gate swung open silently, and the assassin entered the human settlement. Immediately, the difference was clear. Here there were no guards blocking corners, no whispers of fear. Instead, humans moved with purpose and coordination, yet without the stiffness of the Alien Council's order. Children ran along the streets carrying small tools or toys, while adults worked in small teams, repairing walls, tending gardens, or refining machinery. It was organized, but it felt alive. Captain Lyra guided the assassin through the settlement. She kept a careful balance of distance and invitation, allowing the assassin to feel safe yet aware. "This way," she said. "We have space for visitors." The assassin followed, hooded and silent. They noticed the humans' tools, their designs, their careful construction. Everything was built with care, efficiency, and practicality. There was no excess, no unnecessary decoration. Every detail served a purpose. For the first time in weeks, the assassin felt curiosity outweighing fear. They had been running, hiding and fighting for so long that they had almost forgotten what normal life looked like. Alara led them to a small dwelling at the edge of the settlement. The walls were reinforced but unpretentious. Inside, the room was simple: a bed, a small table, a lamp, and shelves of books. The air smelled faintly of herbs and clean stone. "You can rest here," Alara said. "No one will bother you." The assassin nodded, still wary. They had learned to trust nothing and no one, but there was something about these humans that felt different. As the assassin removed their cloak, revealing a lean, muscular figure with precise movements, Alara studied them closely. Their hands were scarred, yet steady. Their eyes, sharp and calculating, reflected intelligence and experience. This was someone who had seen much, done much, and survived everything the galaxy could throw at them. "Why help me?" the assassin asked quietly. Alara smiled faintly. "Because no one else dared. Because fear should not be the measure of a being's worth, and because humans understand what it means to survive together." The assassin considered her words. They had always lived in shadows, solitude, and danger. Compassion was rare, almost extinct in their world. And yet here was a human, offering safety without condition. The sound of alarm bells echoed faintly from the city center. The Alien Council's agents were already searching, no doubt. Yet Alara did not panic. She moved with calm authority, signaling humans to reinforce the settlement's perimeter. The assassin watched carefully, noting the humans' organization. They were small in number, yet their coordination suggested strategy and resilience. Each human knew their role, acted swiftly, and yet maintained a level of creativity that no rigid alien force could predict. For the first time, the assassin felt a spark of respect, not fear, not suspicion, but respect. Humans were different, yes, but they were strong in ways that could not be measured by weaponry alone. Night fell over the settlement, and the twin moons cast silver light across the rooftops. The assassin sat quietly in the small room, listening to the faint sounds of life outside: children laughing, humans moving in harmony, the soft hum of machinery. It was a sound of community, of life continuing despite danger. Alara returned carrying a tray with food. She placed it on the table and said, "You must eat. You need strength." The assassin looked at the meal, simple but nourishing. They had eaten cold rations on the run for weeks, nothing like this. Something in the human care for the simple things touched them. "Why humans?" the assassin asked again. Alara paused. "Because we do not live only to survive. We live to protect each other, to build, to inspire. Fear may rule the galaxy, but it will not rule us, and even someone like you." She glanced at the assassin. "Deserves a chance." The assassin studied her, seeing the truth in her words. They had not expected chance, kindness, or safety. And yet here it was, offered freely, without demand or threat. Hours passed. The assassin remained quiet, but their mind was active. They thought of the bounty hunters, the Alien Council, the agents already tracking them. They had survived countless missions, outwitted countless enemies, yet humans offered something more valuable than stealth or combat. They offered trust. Outside, the settlement was alive with preparation. Humans moved silently but efficiently, reinforcing walls, checking devices, securing weak points. The assassin noted every detail, impressed by the combination of ingenuity and courage. Alara returned once more, placing a hand lightly on the assassin's shoulder. "You are safe here for now, but the galaxy is watching. They will come for you, and when they do, we will face them together." The assassin looked into her eyes, seeing the certainty, the calm bravery. They had spent a lifetime hiding, fearing betrayal. And yet these humans, this one human, offered them not only shelter, but partnership. For the first time, the assassin felt something unfamiliar: hope. Outside the walls, the alien city continued its watch, unaware that a new kind of alliance had been formed, one that would challenge fear, test courage, and perhaps even reshape the galaxy. The assassin sat in silence, the warmth of the human settlement around them. For now, they were not hunted. For now, they were not alone. And for the first time in a long while, they believed that maybe, just maybe, humans were different. The words that had changed everything echoed in their mind. "Come in,"